Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my review of Crown Jewel 2024. And just like that, folks, we are on the road to Survivor Series. We're going to go over every single match. I'm going to tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, whether I agreed or disagreed with the booking decisions, and I'm going to tell you where things could potentially go from here. All in all, Crown Jewel was a fun show that delivered in some surprising ways, but also under-delivered in the areas where I thought it would exactly under-deliver. But it is absolutely worth watching the entire show, so if you haven't seen it, please stop watching this video. I don't want to spoil it for you, and go watch the show yourself. And then come back to this video, okay? And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I am fully confident that you're going to fall in love with this YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. Speaking of daily, and if you want even more than daily, check out the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. Over there, you're going to get 5 weekly match watch-alongs, the Royal Rumble weekly match watch-along, the Undertaker WrestleMania watch-alongs that we're going to do up until WrestleMania. You're going to get the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, and the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else. Go check it out. Link in the description or link in the pinned comment. Let's jump into the review. Folks, before we jump into the matches, I always love starting these WWE Premium Live Event reviews by talking about the crowd, because a crowd, as you know, can make or break any show. And in previous years, I feel like it's a fair criticism to say that the Saudi Arabian crowd hasn't necessarily been the best. However, I will also admit that they've gotten better year over year over year and have been at their best over the last couple of Premium Live Event shows. Well, I am happy to announce that they were fantastic in this show, and this was easily the best Saudi Arabian crowd that we've had ever since WWE started doing these shows in Saudi Arabia. They were loud and present for pretty much the entirety of the show, and they were actually loud and made noise during the women's matches, which has been a key and absolutely fair criticism from the WWE fan base towards the Saudi audience. But they were great pretty much for the entire show, but they were amazing, dare I say legendary, for the main event, where these guys were going bananas for the entirety of the main event. They were loud, they were rowdy, they were singing, they were chanting, they were standing, they were doing the wave, they all had their phones out with their flashlights. It was a beautiful sight to see this Saudi crowd evolve from what it was years ago, where the first few rows were dinner tables and they weren't making any noise because they didn't want to interrupt a dinner party, to now being full-fledged crazy WWE heads. I'm telling you, that main event genuinely felt like we were in the main event of Bash in Berlin all over again. It felt like a European football crowd at a Champions League match. So huge shout out to the Saudi crowd. An extra special bonus shout out goes out to our friends that were in the crowd that brought Santi's app signs. I saw them all. Thank you so much for making Santi go worldwide, baby. Thank you. Seriously, I love you. All right, that's enough about the crowd. I'm going to give the crowd a thumbs up. They were fantastic. Let's jump into the matches. So, of course, we're going to start off with the match that kicked everything off, that being the Bloodline versus Bloodline match. Roman's Bloodline, composed of Roman Reigns, Jimmy, and Jey Uso, taking on Solo's Bloodline, composed of Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, as well as Jacob Fatu. There's a couple of things to note here that are interesting about this match. One, they benched Tongaloa. Why would you bench Tongaloa? Imagine the 90s Bulls benching prime Michael Jordan. That's what they did. It's also interesting to note that Roman came out alongside Jimmy, but not Jey. Jey came out to his own entrance theme, which really plays to various story beats that they've been telling, that Jey doesn't want to be part of Roman's bloodline, that he is his own man, that he is standing on his own 2 feet. However, it also showed, at the very least symbolically, that there is a divide within this new iteration of the original bloodline, that they aren't as cohesive as they ought to be if they want to take down the really cohesive Solo Sikoa-led bloodline. And this divide and rift between Roman Reigns and Jey Uso was apparent during the match, because this match was mostly leading towards the Roman Reigns hot tag. This was a pretty traditional bloodline match in that the first 3/4 of it are pretty slow, pretty methodical, and the heel is getting the majority of the offense. Well, most of the offense was either taken or the offense from our baby faces was delivered by the Usos. Both Jimmy and Jay spent the majority of this tag team match being the representatives of their team. Again, leading towards that big Roman Reigns hot tag. A hot tag that Jay had the opportunity to do. However, instead of giving it to Roman Reigns, who was expecting it, giving that look to Jay like, come on, you know what to do. I'm your tribal chief. Give me that tag. And instead, Jay gave it to Jimmy. Again, showing that divide and continuing to tell that story that even though the band is back together, we're not ready to go on a Backstreet Boys worldwide tour kind of reunion. We're not there yet. Now, I wouldn't say that it was this divide that caused them to lose, but I do believe that it's symbolic that if this version of Roman's bloodline wants to take out Solo and his bloodline, they need to be 100% on the same page. Now, the last, I'd say 8 minutes of the match, this is when it came alive. And if you've been watching wrestling now for the last couple of years, it should be no surprise to you that this is when Roman Reigns' bloodline matches really start to pick up, because that was the case. We had Jacob Fatu going crazy. We had a unique ref bump, a ref bump that I've never actually seen before, which was Roman bringing in Tama Tonga over the top rope and in the process taking out the ref, which, by the way, really wasn't necessary to take out the ref because there were no shenanigans in this match. The only people that got involved in this match were the people that were scheduled to be in this match. Tama Tonga didn't even get involved. Now, in the whole sequence of everybody getting their offense in, there was a moment of miscommunication where Solo pinned Roman Reigns for the 3 count, but he wasn't supposed to. Jimmy was supposed to stop the count. The ref was smart. He didn't pin all the way. He did kind of like do the little scoop and pretended like it was a kick out at 2, but it was a mess up. But aside from that, it was a fairly clean match, like through and through. There were no botches. There was no shenanigans. It was a pretty simple and clean match from beginning to end. And in a shocking turn of events, Solo Sikoa hits Roman Reigns with not 1, but 2 of the Samoan spikes to pick up the victory and pin Roman Reigns clean. Let me reiterate that. Pinned Roman Reigns clean. Now, in my predictions, I said that Solo's bloodline was going to win, but I did not predict a decisive and clean victory, and I certainly did not expect Roman Reigns to be the one to pick up the pin. However, I think that it's brilliant. It's brilliant for 2 reasons. It demonstrates that the original bloodline isn't ready yet. Like, they are not the unit that needs to come together to take out this greater evil that is Solo's bloodline. And that was told in the way that they lost, but also told in all of the contextual clues leading up to the match and in the match, like the divide between Jay and Roman Reigns. So until they can figure that out, it makes sense that Roman Reigns and his bloodline lost. And I also love it because it makes Solo's bloodline look far more legitimate and definitely helps Solo's case to being the legitimate tribal chief when they eventually go into the one-on-one match that we're all waiting for between Roman and Solo for the Ulafala. Now, the beauty of this match wasn't just what happened in the match, but it was definitely the post-match angle with the bloodline continuing the beatdown of Roman Reigns, Jay, and Jimmy for Sami Zayn to go out there and make the save to a huge pop to a very Sami Zayn positive crowd in Saudi Arabia. Now, Sami Zayn came out looking like he was going to help Jay, but then it looked like he was going to hug Solo, only for that hug to turn into the classic Sami Zayn exploder suplex. Honestly, it was a pretty good swerve. And eventually the good guys take control. They take out the Timu bloodline, and now it's Solo in the ring as all 4 members of the original bloodline have him cornered. And in a great little extra swerve to remind you that these bridges have not been fixed, that there is still a lot of legwork that needs to be done to fix this original bloodline, Roman goes for the Superman punch and in the process eats an accidental haluva kick from Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn didn't look remorseful at all. So there's a lot of story to be told here. I thought that this was a great opening match, a great opening segment, and a great needle mover, which is something that I thought that this show wouldn't have much of in terms of moving the needle on major storylines. It definitely moved the needle on WWE's biggest storyline, the Bloodline Saga. This gets a thumbs up from me.
Jeff Hardy.
Oh! Oh,
God!
In that exchange,
Oh my God!
God!
Oh my! Oh! Oh! That, folks, was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at the legendary Rey Mysterio Jr. versus Eddie Guerrero at Halloween Havoc. We have a meaty indie match between Jacob Fatu and Bronson Reed from House of Glory Wrestling. The first ever tag team ladder match between Edge and Christian and the Hardy Boys at No Mercy 1998. We're also looking at an NXT Women's Triple Threat match between Charlotte Flair, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky. And the legendarily bloody John Cena versus John Bradshaw Layfield at Judgment Day 2005. You're going to get this plus the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the weekly Undertaker WrestleMania watch-along that we're doing leading into WrestleMania, the currently going Royal Rumble watch-along that we're doing that leads into the Royal Rumble, and the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else. Again, all of this is available on the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. Go check it out. I'll put the link in the description or the link in the pinned comment. If you're already supporting on Patreon, thank you. This is how we're able to do what we do as often as we do it. Just consider it, even if you try for 1 month, I'm confident that you're gonna fall in love with it. There's just so much content over there. But that's it, folks. Let's get back into the video. Next up, we have the fatal four-way tag team match between Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill defending against Kairi Sane and Io Sky of Damage Control, Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson of Metaphor, as well as Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. There was some concern that the crowd wasn't going to be alive for this, and yeah, they weren't the loudest compared to some of the other matches, but I would say that they were loud compared to most of the women's matches that we've seen on Saudi Arabian soil in the past. So we're seeing major improvements from the crowd reaction towards women's wrestling, and to me, that's a good step forward. And how could you not make noise during this match? This match absolutely ruled. It was exactly what it needed to be. An incredibly fast-paced affair where everybody got to shine, everybody got awesome bouts of offense, and the right people won, in my opinion. The Metaphor girls showed out. This was easily the best that they've ever looked, not just as individuals, as Lash Legend looked like a beast alongside her little blossoming feud with Jade Cargill, but also as a tag team. This is like the most tag team moves and tandems that the girls from Metaphor have had in a match. They looked great in this. And you don't need me to tell you that Io Sky and Kairi Sane were also fantastic, because not only were they fantastic, as is obvious because we all expect that from them, but I think that they were the MVPs of this match, delivering all of the best moves, all of the best oohs and ahs moments, and all of the best tag team offense as well. But not to be entirely outshined, Piper Niven and Chelsea Green were fantastic as well, providing that levity, that comedic relief that a match like this really benefited from. Not only that, but for a second, it looked like it was going to be Chelsea Green and Piper Niven that were going to pick up the victory, but in hilarious hijinks and miscommunication, Chelsea Green and Piper Niven miscommunicate, and Piper Niven hits Chelsea Green with a big, Jack Swagger-like slam that she does, only to set up Piper Niven to get hit with a beautiful Doomsday device for that to be the finisher by Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill, who are still your women's tag team champions. A lot of people were calling for the tag titles to change because this was a pretty easy place to take the titles off of a really dominant tag team, just like they did in the triple threat match at Clash of the Castle earlier this year. But I didn't think that the WWE was willing to knock on that door twice in just the same couple of months. I think that when they lose the titles, it's going to be in a way that they cost each other the titles, thus really setting us up for the eventual main event worthy type of feud that we can have between Bianca and Jade Cargill. So I think it was the right call to just have them win clean here. So thumbs up. The match was a lot of fun. I think that you're going to like it a lot. Next up, we have a match that I was really looking forward to, that being Seth freaking Rollins taking on Bronson Reed. And I love how the match started, in that it didn't start. These guys were brawling with each other for the first 6 minutes of the match on the outside as Bronson Reed was making his entrance out to the ring. I really think that this cemented just how much of a blood feud this is starting to become. And to me, it really screamed that this and the ending is going to eventually lead to us having a duology or even a trilogy of matches between these two. I also like the very simple tale that this was telling, that Bronson Reed is a monster that is absolutely unstoppable, that he's a borderline Terminator with how much offense he can get, because the tale of the story was, can Seth Rollins get Bronson Reed off of his feet to even attempt to pin him? And in the process of them telling us this story, they had a fantastic match in the process, a match that up to that point was actually my favorite in-ring match of the night. I like that the WWE did everything in their power to protect how scary the tsunami is. There wasn't a moment where, like, Super Seth Rollins was kicking out of 4 tsunamis or anything like that. Like, Seth Rollins was doing everything in his power to avoid any and all tsunamis, because that would mark the end of this match. And that's how the match ended, with Bronson Reed trying to hit multiple tsunamis, but Seth Rollins outsmarting Bronson Reed and rolling out of the way and out of the ring in the process, thus angering an already pissed off Bronson Reed, who can't hit his move, to grab the steps and eventually eat the steps to the face, with Seth Rollins taking him out by the knee, which then sets up the finish of about like 2 or 3 stomps, which ended with a super stomp from the top rope. So it took literally everything, including the kitchen sink, to take out Bronson Reed in this match. And even though I think that Bronson Reed should have won this to really help justify furthering this feud to have multiple matches, the fact that Bronson Reed, even though he lost this match, was bloodied but still standing tall and smiling, tells us that we've got a lot more legs in this story to go. And I wouldn't be surprised if in their second match, Bronson Reed actually picks up the victory. But this was a great match all around. I'm confident that this is just the first time that we're going to see these two. I wouldn't be surprised if they run it back again at Survivor Series. And honestly, I really hope that they do, because this was already fantastic, and I think it's just a taste of what these two can do together. This match also served as a reminder of how much of a freak Bronson Reed is, with his agility and the way that he's able to do moves that just make no sense. Like doing a spinning sit-down powerbomb for somebody his size sounds impossible. This match was great. It gets thumbs up from me. Then we have the first of the Crown Jewel Championship matches, Liv Morgan taking on Nia Jax. Now, this match kind of cemented the problem that I had going into this PLE, which was that these championship matches were just giant exhibitions, that there was nothing in terms of story that would matter once the dust settled by the next episode of Raw or SmackDown. And that's kind of exactly what happened here. There was nothing in terms of story that was pushed that would change fundamentally how storylines are played out on Raw or SmackDown. So really, if this match never happened, then the storylines of Raw or SmackDown would be identical. And to me, that is a problem. Because it's great to get a showcase of champion versus champion, but at the end of the day, like, what people care about in professional wrestling is the narrative, is the tales. And this didn't really have one, and it didn't create anything. This certainly didn't advance any Liv Morgan's Raw-centric feuds that she has. Nothing with Rhea Ripley was played out at Saudi Arabia. Nothing with a new contender was played out either, with Rhea Ripley being out with injury. So we're just sort of in the same position going into the show with Liv Morgan as we are with her leaving the show as Crown Jewel champion. And the same goes for Nia Jax. Nothing was advanced between Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton, or Nia Jax and Naomi in this. You can say, no, they did advance the Tiffany Stratton and Nia Jax stuff. No, they didn't. It was the same stuff that they were already doing on Friday Night SmackDown. They just did a replay of it at Crown Jewel, and it was the exact same result as it always leads to. So just like Liv Morgan, as the dust settles of Nia Jax's loss, we're the same going in as we are leaving. And that's problematic in my opinion. And frankly, the match wasn't good enough to warrant this just being a simple exhibition match. It was fine. It was okay. I still recommend watching it, but it's not as if these two were putting on some like 5-star clinic to warrant only doing what feels, and justifiably may I say so, a non-canon special event. And it's kind of crazy to think that this doesn't have storyline implications with just how much shenanigans were in this match, to the point where there were more shenanigans in this match than there was actual match in the first place, because the Tiffany Stratton angle happened quite early on. And then we had Raquel in there, Dominic Mysterio helping Liv Morgan win. There's just so many moving parts going on here that kind of took me away from the entire experience. Again, I don't think that it's a bad match. It's a fine showcase of champion versus champion, but this didn't really do a lot for me. I will say, super happy for Liv Morgan. The rise that Liv Morgan has had in 2024 alone needs to be studied. It's actually generational how far up the card Liv Morgan has moved up since the Royal Rumble this year. It's insane. But I overall think that this was the weakest match of the night, so it gets a thumbs down from me. Next up, we have one of my favorite matches of the year, folks. LA Knight versus Andrade versus Carmelo Hayes. The triple threat match for the United States Championship was fucking amazing. Even when I include how good the main event was from an in-ring perspective, this was better from an in-ring perspective and the match that mattered in terms of storytelling outside of this event. The results of this match will absolutely carry forward and create implications on Friday Night SmackDown. And that to me is 2 for 2. So we've got the best match of the night that actually moved forward a story. That to me is fantastic. The chemistry between Andrade and Carmelo was something that we already knew. What I wasn't expecting was how good the chemistry between all three of them was going to be, because Andrade and Carmelo, they've been going at it for months, but LA Knight has just sort of been an auxiliary piece, occasionally getting involved. But in this match, it felt like we've been doing a 7-game series between all three of these guys with how fluid the offense was between all three of these guys. And I also have to mention that this is the perfect type of triple threat match. This is my favorite kind of triple threat match. A triple threat match where from beginning to end, all three guys are involved in all of the offense. There was not a moment where it felt like, oh, LA Knight is outside taking a break for a while, or one of the guys is outside while they're having a one-on-one match in the ring. No, the entire time it was a balls to the wall triple threat match with all three guys in the ring doing tandem moves on one another and free-flowing offense from one guy to the other. It was brilliant. The highlight of this was how awesome the finish was. A genuinely fantastic segment where Carmelo is doing that Hurricanrana thing that he does that results in a faceplant. That's one of his finishers. But as he's taking Andrade to the faceplant position, LA Knight catches Carmelo into a BFT in the process in this beautiful, free-flowing, amazing symphony of professional wrestling to pick up the victory against Carmelo Hayes. But yes, that was the finish, but most of the match was like that. Literally, most of the match was free-flowing offense between one guy to another guy to another guy, and it truly was a masterful match. When I make my match of the year contenders at the end of the year, I'm telling you, this is one of them. This is not recency bias. This match fucks. This is a top 10 match of the year for me personally. So if there's only one match that you can watch because of time constraints, whatever it might be, this is the one. Do yourself a favor and watch this match either for the first time or go back and watch it again. This ruled. This is so many thumbs up. And I almost forgot that there was a match that was scheduled that never happened. That being Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. And I think that this was brilliant. It truly, genuinely was. The match never happened. These guys just hate each other so much, it seems, that they were willing to destroy each other before the match could even begin, to the point that the match was called off. Not only were they destroying each other, but it seemed like they were symbolically destroying the WWE itself with this feud, as WWE officials were getting attacked in the process. Kevin Owens hitting the ref with a beautiful stunner, by the way, that the ref sold like $1 million. We even had Adam Pearce eating an RKO. We had Daivari eating a steel post spear thing kind of maneuver. And then we even had Jamie Noble taking a sucker punch right to the face. This is now bigger than just Kevin Owens versus Randy Orton. This now involves the entire WWE machine, as these two brawled and symbolically and literally destroyed what WWE is all about, the fabric of WWE, in the destruction of these WWE officials. And it ended in a beautiful way, brawl throughout the crowd, and Kevin Owens hitting a beautiful top of the second ledge elbow drop on Randy Orton through the tables, and it cuts to black. That's it. We never got a match. Whatever this was, whatever you want to call it, I thought was a brilliant decision. This gets a thumbs up because I do believe that this was a very fantastic way to give us the visual representation that Kevin Owens is unhinged. This is not a regular Kevin Owens. Triple H said it. Triple H said that this is an unhinged, caged animal, Kevin Owens, that I'm afraid to unleash on you, Randy. But we saw it. We saw it in person. He's so dangerous that a regular match can't hold Kevin Owens. So this begs the question, where does this go? Because I thought we were going to go Kevin Owens versus Cody Rhodes at Survivor Series, but I think it should be Cody Rhodes versus somebody else. Meanwhile, Randy Orton versus Kevin Owens should probably run this back because a lot of people want to see this and probably an unsanctioned rules match environment. So again, all of this, the way that it played out, there's so many things still unanswered. Thumbs up either way. And now let's talk about the main event of the evening, that being Cody Rhodes versus Gunther for the Crown Jewel Championship in another champion versus champion match. All right, let's talk about the match first. It was amazing, like immaculate, like truly a showcase of what professional wrestling is. I think that this was better than Randy Orton versus Gunther, both of the matches at Bash in Berlin, as well as the amazing technical bout at King of the Ring. I think that it was better than both of those. And yet, even though it was better than both of those from an in-ring perspective, at the end of the day, Randy versus Gunther is still way more impactful because that actually drove storylines forward. This, as amazing as it was, as hot as the crowd was just a exhibition house show type match. Because again, what happens afterwards just doesn't matter, folks. I try to say it. I really thought that maybe WWE would throw some swerves, add story elements that would impact and make this feel like a canon event, but they didn't. It just is a singular moment in time trapped in a vacuum of this Crown Jewel Championship that will not matter by Monday night. But again, I want to reiterate, this match is fantastic. It was like two wrestling supercomputers trying to outduel and outsmart and outcode each other. They were just putting on a clinic of what professional wrestling is all about, whether it was the graps, the counters, the close calls, truly, everything about this was a perfect wrestling match. I even loved the finish. I love the finish of Cody Rhodes going for the top rope cutter only to get caught in that deadly Gunther sleeper hold, only for the momentum of Cody Rhodes to drive him back and roll up Gunther in a SummerSlam 92 finish of Piper versus Bret Hart, which is a cool little callback. Not SummerSlam 92. I'm going to need to get fact checked on this one. It was definitely the Piper versus Bret Hart match. I just cannot remember the year that it took place now. Anyways, comments, do your job. But overall, it was a clean bout from beginning to end. Triple H stuck to his word. It was a match that was going to have a definitive winner, and it absolutely did have a definitive winner. Cody Rhodes is your new Crown Jewel champion, and I promise you, no one's going to care about that. But the match was fantastic. I will say, at the very least, it has that. But the story element and the true feeling of stakes and danger just wasn't there, like, it was for Gunther versus Randy Orton. So I'm still going to give it a thumbs up, but there's a major, major disconnect between storytelling and the things that people want to see play out narratively on TV and this match. That it just wasn't there. Overall, I liked Crown Jewel, but I feel like my original thought of the champion versus champion being not the best decision, I stand by that. I hope they don't do this again. But overall, Crown Jewel gets a thumbs up from me. Folks, thanks so much for watching and listening to my review. I'm done. Get out of here.